Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. It's Hila here from Saturday Night Stitching. I hope that you are having a fantastic day wherever you are. Today's post, I'm just going to be sharing with you some DIY sewing projects. So to start off with, I have the Sheath dress from the Avid Seamstress. The Avid Seamstress is a British-based independent sewing company, and I'd had my eye on this pattern for quite a while, and then my friend Eleanor let me try on her sheath dress, and I was like, yep, I do want to make this. Now, I actually made this sometime last year, but I brought it out as part of my spring wardrobe. And so I thought I'd share it here because I've never actually shared it on my YouTube channel. So you can see there, that is the picture of the pattern on the website. And I think it does look like what it says it should look like. So it's got a zipper at the center back seam as well as an elastic casing, and it has got this simple circle neckline. But what makes this pattern so pretty awesome is the fact that it has those dolman sleeves, so you don't have the hassle of doing a set in sleeve to create a simple sheath dress. Plus it's got the pockets. Please note it is very snug on the hips, and you can even see in the styling pictures on the website that it is quite snug. And I had to wear my Spanx with it, and yes, I do have Spanx from when I had to wear them for my wedding, because I had a wedding 3 months after giving birth, so I just wanted everything to look snatch. And so I can only wear this dress when I'm wearing my Spanx. I wanted to show you the inside out. I couldn't zip it up. I had to do it with the center back at the front because it's actually really difficult to try and zip it up. But I wanted to show you the fact that that zipper ends about an inch or so just above where the casing goes, and that's how she manages to achieve that fitted look. And you can see you've got the neck facings there finished ever so neatly. I'm very proud of how these turned out. All of my seams were finished off with an overlocker, and I had to notch that underarm seam there so you can get the full movement. The elastic casing on the inside is a really nice feature. I used an 1.5 inch wide elastic, so you want to get a good decent quality elastic. If I were to make this again, I'd probably make it wider on the hips. Up next is a vintage sewing pattern. No, actually it's like a reboot of a vintage sewing pattern. It's Simplicity 1609. They call it a Jiffy dress, and it comes with different variations depending on the color that you choose. And I just chose to make it in a simple straightforward dress using this fabulous, absolutely fabulous cotton sateen print that I got from Minerva Crafts. Unfortunately, it was one of those fabrics that was non-reorderable, and they've never had it since, but it is absolutely beautiful. So first off, the neckline is just too high for me. I probably need to lower it by 5/8 of an inch. I love the armscye drafting. I think it's just perfect and just right. And there's an invisible zipper at the back, some shoulder darts as well. Okay, so I'm trying to show you the French dart. French darts are incredibly flattering. So you've got two darts actually to create the shaping. You have the French dart, and then you've got the bust dart. Now this fabric has got a bit of stretch in it. It's got, I think it was 2% elastane or 2% spandex, so it gives it a nice amount of snugness without being uncomfortable. I love the length of this dress so much, and I think I was quite surprised at how the style suited me. I didn't have that many high expectations, but at the same time I'd seen other bloggers who'd made it, and I had absolutely loved it. Moving on to the inside shots of this dress, I actually really am proud of how this looks on the inside. Okay, so you've got that French dart that you can see there, and you've got the bust dart. And this has what's called an all-in-one facing. This creates an incredibly neat and polished finish on the inside. I actually made a mistake when I cut out that front. It was supposed to be two separate pieces, and I cut it out on the fold, but I just decided to make a design feature out of it. I like the drafting on this dress because you can see all of the darts, they point to the exact area on the bust where they should be pointing. And it's got an invisible zipper there, and you can see where I put my label. Now the fabric that I used for the all-in-one facing, I harvested that from an old shirt of my husband's. The collar had completely gone, so I kind of reused the fabric because I really liked the stripe in it. I used a medium weight interfacing so that it would match. Up next is my birthday month dress, which was also from the Burda April 2019 issue, and it's dress number 120. I was very proud of this because I actually made it in the same month as the magazine came out. Now, I did show you the fabric for this before, but oh my gosh, this turned out so much better than I had imagined. It's cotton and steel XOXO fabric from their basics collection. It is a beautiful fabric and it is just so bright and vibrant. It has those crosses which are like a printed metallic gradient, and it catches the light in such a beautiful way. The pattern turned out exactly as I expected. Yeah, I just showed you a shot of what the styling looked like in the magazine there. So I call this my checkerboard dress basically because of how it kind of looks like a checkerboard. I wasn't sure about those sleeves, but I am so glad I just decided to try it because I love how they're so pow pow. I call them my power sleeves. So I was very proud of how the collar turned out, and I decided that I was actually going to color block the collar as well, so that you've got that continuation of color of the green from the back and the fuchsia pink at the front. This made the project 3 times as long to finish because I was constantly stopping and changing the fabrics, because I was top stitching the green bits with green thread, top stitching the pink bits with pink thread. So yeah, it was a bit of a ball ache to do, but I love how it turned out in the end because you've got that color congruency throughout. And when it came to the sleeves, I also had to use the beige, the cream color thread that I was using. But yeah, I am incredibly chuffed with how this turned out. I barely had enough fabric to make the belt, unfortunately, but you can see on there I top stitched with pink on the pink bits and I top stitched with green on the green bits. It took so much longer, but even with the buttonholes, I did green buttonhole thread on the lower portion that's green, and I used pink buttonhole thread on the upper portion that is pink. It was very frustrating at times, but totally worth it for how professional and polished this makes it look. I also, oddly enough, like the style even when it's not tied up or cinched at the waist. It's a very comfortable sort of style, and I can imagine in linen this would be fabulous, or even in a drapier fabric like a viscose. I saw somebody on Instagram made it in a viscose, and it's like a mustardy viscose, and it's absolutely stunning. So I'm thinking that I'm definitely going to try and make it again in a viscose. I wore this at Easter time. It's also kind of like the perfect Easter colors as well, with the green and the pink. I also use the selvage edge for the hemming on the bottom flounce. I like to do that when I'm using designer fabrics like art gallery fabrics or cotton and steel fabrics. In terms of sizing, I traced out and I cut out my usual Burda size 38, and I think for a loose fitting dress, it has come out exactly as how you would expect it based on the line drawings as well as the magazine styling pictures. I used an orange contrasting thread for the overlocking, and honestly, this, guys, I had so much fun sewing with this fabric. It takes an iron really well, and one of the things that makes the process of sewing a garment so memorable for me is when the fabric just takes a stitch beautifully and when it responds to a steam iron well. And this cotton and steel fabric, it does that. And I definitely plan on getting another colorway to make like an archer shirt or just a simple dindle skirt, because it is such beautiful fabric and it comes in like 12 different colorways. So definitely you're going to be seeing some more of this turning up in my wardrobe at some point. But just wanted to point out how well my collar turned out. Just so many things about this project that I love that worked out so well for me. And it's probably going to be one of those dresses that is my top handmade sewn garment. And I just had an idea about the belt, which was that I could just tie it up around my head and kind of like play around it being in the 60s. My kids really like this dress, and my girls in fact asked me to make them something similar in similar colors. This was a very satisfying make, by the way, because I actually used up almost every single bit of fabric. Right, up next is Burda March 2019 at number 103. Okay, I'm just going to begin by saying that this is such a lovely chic top, and the fabric, oh my gosh, it is so light. It's a cotton lawn, but it's much lighter than most lawns that I've worked with. It's almost similar to a batiste. It's a Cloud 9 fabric, and what attracted me to this fabric is that it's got like those really beautiful abstract brush strokes on it, and there's just something about the way those brush strokes fall and the mix of colors that just really caught my eye. And when I received the fabric and I opened it up, I was not disappointed. I very nearly got too precious about this fabric. I love the v-neck on that style, and it came out so beautifully. But one thing that I wanted to mention about the fabric that I love is it feels so incredibly comfortable against the skin when you're wearing it, because it is so light. And for those of you who are into like sustainable fabric and sustainable sewing, Cloud 9 fabrics have got a really good eco-friendly reputation. I think they try and source their fabrics sustainably. I mean, I don't know too much about it, but when I was reading on their website, it sounded like they've got a lot of good eco credentials. So this top, I decided to go for the longer version, because you can actually make it in two versions, one that's a little bit shorter and one that's like hip length, and I feel like it works really nicely. It doesn't have any darts at all. It's just like a nice loose fitting top, and it's got those outstanding sleeves which are quite blousy, and it's a bracelet length at the sleeve. But I didn't put any loops on the side, even though the instructions told you to put some loops on the side, some belt loops, and that's because I wanted to be able to wear it without a belt when it calls for it. Now, this fabric, beautiful though it is, comfortable as it is a very delicate to sew. Number one, it has a needle memory, which means that if you try to unpick it, it does not like it. So I had to do a few things to work with it nicely, and I will be posting my 7 tips for working with such lightweight fabrics. Definitely worth it. You do have to put in a little bit more care and attention when you're sewing with it, but it is so worth it for how beautiful and how lovely and comfortable the fabric feels. For that facing, I actually used a silk habo tie with a lightweight woven interfacing, and I'm very, very happy with how this turned out. Up next, Burda Style, February 2016, number 103. Now, I actually made this in 2016, and this top is still going strong despite so many washes, and I still love the style. So when I made this, I had never mixed fabrics before, and all I had to go on was this one picture that was in the magazine. That was it. That was the one picture that you saw in the magazine, and the line drawing. But there was something about the line drawing and the high-low hem that attracted me. And I had never done darts in a jersey fabric before, but I just trusted the process. A lot of things seemed weird to me, and it was also the first time I had to do a satin sleeve with a jersey fabric. And I remember thinking, why does Burda want me to do a satin sleeve? Everything I'd read at that point had told me that with knit fabrics, you know, you can't treat them like woven fabrics. But I followed the process, and it turned out to be a most beautiful top, incredibly unique, and I absolutely loved it, so much so that I made a second one, which isn't out at the moment, but when I do get it out from my long-term storage, I will show it to you. But it turned out incredibly beautifully. So you've got the satin at the back, and then you have the jersey at the front. I loved the neck finishing. This was one of those projects that really challenged me to push myself outside of my comfort zone and outside of everything that I thought I knew and understood about sewing. So I just brought this out because I wanted to give you an example of how sometimes with Burda, you never know how something is going to turn out and whether it's going to be something that you absolutely love, because all I had to go on for this was the line drawing and the very uninformative, unimaginative magazine picture that I showed you earlier. This was also one of my first times trying to use my twin needle on my normal sewing machine. And I'm quite happy with how this turned out. I have worn this so many times and it's still going strong almost 3 years later. So sometimes that's the beauty of sewing, the adventure of sewing, where all you have to go on is just a gut feeling that this might work out, and it might seem like, ooh, does this make any sense? But you follow through the process and you trust the process, and you might just end up with something that's quite outstanding and something that you love dearly. Okay, so thank you guys so much for watching, and if you've stayed until the end, you rock, you are awesome. And I hope that you enjoyed the video and that you found something useful. And if you did, please do give it a thumbs up down below. And if you haven't already, do subscribe for new sewing related videos every week. Also, I'd love to know which one is your favorite of these garments that I have shown. Let me know in the comments box down below. And until I see you next time, happy sewing. Bye.